Okay, so good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for our free webinar today. We are delighted to have with us Kate McElderry, who is a dyslexia specialist from America, but with very strong Irish connections and a long-time friend of the Dyslexia Association of Ireland. So Kate is joining us today to just share a little bit about this wonderful new book that she's been involved in producing, Making a Mark, about the life of renowned sculptor Mark Stoddart. But also the book, I think, is so interesting because it has such a wealth of learning resources in it. And I suppose that's why I reached out to Kate and said perhaps she'd like to maybe come on and do a little webinar and just share with us a little bit more about the journey of the book, and I suppose the ultimate aim in terms of what they're trying to achieve with the educational side of it. So over to you, Kate.
All
Look
right.
forward to hearing about it. And if anyone has any questions as we're going along, maybe if you'd like to just pop them into the chat box or into the put them into the Q&A, and then if we have a little bit of time at the end, we'll hopefully be able to put those to Kate before we finish. Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Well, thank you so much. So indeed, I will be talking about making a mark in your classroom using the book, Making a Mark, Discovering the Power of Neurodiversity on a Learning Safari as an educational tool. So it's so funny. I'm Kate McElderry in the US and I'm Kate McElderry over in Ireland. So it's funny, different pronunciations. And that actually brings me to saying that this is really quite a global book. And there was lots of thoughts in making sure that we were trying to reach lots of people who speak English in different parts of the world. So the learn about how the book can take your students on their own learning safari. And I first wanted to share that indeed it is a book inspired by a very amazing artist and gentleman with dyslexia. So Mark Stoddart, international designer, is a sculptor and a designer and an entrepreneur, actually, who specializes in bronze sculptures and furniture. He also works with silver and Scottish gold in some of his pieces. He works very closely with Dyslexia Scotland as an ambassador and a benefactor for several schools who are designed to serve neurodivergent learners, primarily with dyslexia in Bali and Kenya as well. I believe there's other schools in the works, and he does just a lot for the whole cause of not only dyslexia, but neurodiversity. So a little bit about myself. Most people call me Kate, and I am a teacher, a classroom teacher. I teach the science of reading, do structured literacy and speech to print methodology and other evidence-based methods at the Odyssey School. In a prior life, I worked at UMBC as a graduate assistant in the education department. And I'm also at Odyssey a program director for outreach. So I help facilitate partnerships and I conduct workshops along with other teachers at the school and do trainings and form, all sorts of initiatives, often with universities and nonprofit organizations. So if anyone afterwards has questions for me, they're welcome to email me using this contact. So it's fun to be able to say that I've spent time in both Baltimores, the one in County Cork, and of course here in Baltimore County. So at the Odyssey School, we are not only a school, but also, as I say, a learning center that has outreach initiatives. We do free screenings, for example, in the community. And as I said, trainings and workshops. And then, of course, we are a school, and we're a school that's independent and designed very specially for students with dyslexia and language-based learning differences. So we're K through 8. So that's basically the equivalent of your reception class. And we go up, so 5 years old to 14. And we're very intentionally designed that way because we want our students to be able to mainstream into kind of more typical high schools as such. We offer educational programs that are, again, evidence-based, meaning they're rooted in the latest of neuroscience. We actually invite many of the leading experts onto our campus for trainings, and then they help us sort of translate those findings into our classrooms. We use small group instruction, and daily tutoring for individual skill building. Besides all these great academic initiatives, we also infuse the 4 pillars, character education, into everything that we do at the school. So those pillars are kindness, honesty, respect, and hard work. And I wanted to just share that a little bit because I know that Dyslexia Association of Ireland has also a very evidence-based approach and these wonderful initiatives that help people with the challenges that come with dyslexia often, but it's more holistic and also about strength-based and celebrating the whole person and their whole experience, and very much into the mental health and just again the more holistic picture. So I just wanted to mention that. As far as this webinar, I wanted to highlight the agenda and themes here. I'm going to give an overview of the book, talk a little bit about some of the neuroeducational themes. Also give you examples of how you could use the book in the classroom setting, in tutoring sessions, and also for adult teacher professional development opportunities, and of course at home. So they say it takes a village to raise a child, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I would also say that a book of this nature, it took a village, and I wanted to just share a little bit about that background here, because I think it's quite remarkable, the inspiration for the story, Mark himself, and then all these people who have been in supportive roles in all sorts of capacities. So we have Priscilla Hannaford, who is with brilliant publications, and she was absolutely fabulous in working with us and helping think very carefully about the layout and the format to make this really accessible to students with dyslexia and other neurodiverse learning profiles. Illustrator Rachel Cush, and then these 2 fantastic neuroscientists who helped in terms of the learning resource section with brain-based information and also editing that section. Additionally, we had Elizabeth Cannon from the Odyssey School, and along with Martha Sweeney. They're both speech pathologists, speech-language pathologists and tutors, and then Martha Sweeney is also head of school. They were very encouraging and served as readers as well. Writer, founder of the Irish Writers Centre and Forge Corner Writers Retreat is Jack Hart. He was a reader and gave excellent advice to me along the way. Also gave me the space to write the learning resource section, which was really helpful because you can imagine as a full-time teacher and busy parent, it's not that easy to find the time, space, including the headspace to write all these pages. So we also had neurodiversity expert and educational trainer, Dr. Martin Bloomfield, who does work with York Associates and produces those fantastic dyslexia bites that are on a number of social media platforms. Kathy McGee of Dyslexia Scotland, she's the CEO and works very closely with her staff with incredible initiatives, also like Dyslexia Association of Ireland, the whole experience of dyslexia, the whole person. And Mark and her work closely with a number of initiatives. And then, of course, there's you, and last but certainly not least, Rosie, who helped as a reader and actually inspiration for the learning resource section. So I'll touch on that in a second. So Mark Stoddart is the co-author and the inspiration for the story, and I'm the first author and a learning specialist. I just wanted to give a little shout out to the comic illustrators because this book just wouldn't be what it is without the illustrations. So Rossi Stone is also a Dyslexia Scotland ambassador, as Mark is, and he helped with the initial mock-ups, and he also led us to Rachel Cush, a freelance comic and community artist who did the majority of the book. As Mark often says, art is key, and art can make a difference. And I think it's really key to this book, and also absolutely makes a difference. So in terms of Mark as an artist, I think what I felt really compelled to sort of try to infuse in the book itself is this fun question here. Is it a sculpture or a table? So Mark is particularly famous for his hippo sculptures that also serve as tables. He has also lots of other animals and many other bronze sculptures as well. Well, the answer is really it's both. And that is part of the really clever and innovative design that he creates here. So the same goes as, is this a story or an educational resource, this book? And it is both. And it was very much aimed to try to kind of capture the spirit of Mark being able to blend form and function in his art and, excuse me, career, and for us to also try to do this together in this book. So indeed, the book is an educational resource in a story format. And I will say that capturing the story was quite effortless because Mark tells a story and it's very compelling, but it's not as easy sometimes to share facts in such a lyrical format. So I found in writing that part, I was a little bit stuck, and it was just wonderful to hear Rosie Bissett give a talk for International Dyslexia Association of, I'm sorry, I was thinking for a second, your group, but for Maryland branch, and give this wonderful quote: "Neurodiversity deserves ongoing conversation, and good things happen when we have a conversation." And I couldn't agree more. And so that idea of a conversation and making it ongoing really stuck with me, and became something that inspired how the learning resource section was constructed. Additionally, in discussions with Jack Hart, he said, keep it all flowing. Make the learning resource part of the story. You know, kids don't want to read a textbook at the end, and that way it's for both students and teachers, and that those pieces of advice were just wonderful. So as a result, the book is really a full circle. It's a conversation, and it's gathered around a table, and of course no ordinary table. It's a hippo table. It's a Mark Stoddart hippo table. So the book is designed as a conversation with characters around that table having a memory moment. They're going back in time and they're discussing and remembering about their own educational learning safaris. Those characters have some common learning difference profiles like dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dyspraxia, ADHD, and also anxiety. Now, I realize that these latter two are not always considered really cognitive learning differences, but Mark and I felt it was really important to include them because they really influence learning, whether you're able to put forth your attention or if you're extremely anxious, that can absolutely influence how you learn. You will notice throughout the book that there are these lines. And I just thought in the chat box, if anybody wanted to maybe share what they think they might mean. So if you want to do that right now, you could. No problem if you don't want to, but you could just put in the chat box what you think the lines might mean in the story, Making a Mark, Discovering the Power of Neurodiversity on a Learning Safari. Okay, so connections and overlap, love that. Different way people's brains think, yes, absolutely. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Yes, and some more coming in, great. Different ways of learning, but getting to the same goal. I love that, absolutely. I hope I'm giving you the feeling that there's lots of right answers here, perhaps no wrong answers in this case too. I'll just share that the reason they came about is that in showing this to a student who has ADHD, he said, it would be really helpful to show the student that you're actually got lines of communication that are going back in time. And that will actually help the student maybe keep track of that. I thought, well, that's really neat. That's a great idea. I shared that with some other students. And then I also have done some talks and people have come up with other things. And I just wanted to share those. So we have lines of communication, connections, everything is connected, and thank you for your thoughts. Absolutely, very much in line with that. Educational strands, I had never even thought of that. I gave a talk recently at American University, and the professor said, oh, it's like different strands, neurodiversity and social emotional learning, art, and so forth. I thought that was great. Linking the past to the present, memories, synaptic connections, neural networks. I hadn't thought of that. I thought that was amazing. A student who's 13 said that. Another student said it's like confetti, a celebration of learning. Well, I love all of those, but just wanted to share that there's a lot of conceptual art with open to interpretation, which I think is quite fun about the book. So I'd like to share some readings so you get to hear a little bit about the book and in terms of the story part. And these next two, nicely enough, feature Mark.
Words came as one daunting lump, and Mark really wasn't sure how to approach them. He too would become anxious, especially when Mrs. Thwart would demand him to repeat and memorize in her piercing pitch. Mrs. Thwart would preach that reading was just a matter of learning one's ABCs and one must try harder. She demanded, therefore, that Mark repeat long and difficult words over and over again, and always in one go. Worst of all, she would actually laugh as Mark stumbled. Again, Mark, discombobulated. Say it. Dis. Mark wanted to shout.
Disrespect? You are not respecting me, nor how I learn, Mrs. Thwart.
But of course, Mark never said that aloud. And he really couldn't get the word discombobulated to come out either. Looking awkward on land, the hippo was surprisingly graceful in the water. Mark suddenly realized.
I'm just like this hippo, awkward in one place, at ease and successful in another.
He had a flashback to his own learning and thought to himself,
The right environment, habitat for the hippo, and school for a student can make all the difference.
It's true what Mrs. Brill used to say. Expect the unexpected in life, because the view was spectacular. The water was as crystal clear as glass, and the sun was highlighting the hippo's head. The wild beauty of it all. Mark was completely inspired.
Okay, and then this one is actually from some students, and something that teachers sometimes call, readers' theater.
On the spot, Mark arrived at school the next day, hands sweaty and feeling anxious about the all-school assembly. Self-doubt overcame him, but Brida's and Mark's eyes met. George and Brida mouthed encouraging words from across the room.
You've got this, Mark. Go, Mark. You can do it, Mark.
They told him from afar.
Do it. If only I know the blooming answer.
Mark thought. Mark was then called up on the stage.
Okay, so the book is inspired by aspects of Mark's life, his learning journey with dyslexia, and art. The story includes other different thinkers also, who have strengths, talents, and challenges. It also involves a variety of teachers with varying mindsets and methodologies. Invites readers and listeners to embark on their own learning safari. And I just wanted to say that indeed, the book does not have to be necessarily read by a student who has dyslexia. It can be read too. I think we need to normalize that it's absolutely fine to listen to a book. The book also teaches analogies. So analogous reasoning is a really key part of deep reading and deep comprehension. And studies show that often it's not always taught explicitly or quite enough for students who struggle to read. And it's sort of theorized that part of that is that it can be laborious for children who struggle to read to get through their reading, and then sometimes there just isn't the engine power to do that comprehension or even sort of the time left sometimes in the class. And so visual analogies can help support deep comprehension. So that comes from some of the work of Dr. Marianne Wolf at Tufts University. So analogous reasoning using visuals is just packed in this book, and the comics and conceptual art really help. So this is a nice example here of likening humans and children to plants, where we need to be nurturing and kind and think about the environment and all these sort of ingredients that help foster healthy growth. So I think this is very easy for a lot of students and people in general to be able to make that connection and analogous reasoning. So we have a lot of conceptual art as well, and that means that the art is really teaching. It's not just nice pictures throughout that it sort of entertain as such. It definitely does that, I think, with the comics. At the same time, they're absolutely there to teach. So just like before, I'm curious to know if you have any thoughts on what this image shows. I'll pause a little longer just to make sure I get all your chats. So go ahead if you would like to put in your chat box. There's, again, no wrong answers. It's fascinating to see what people think about this image. So go ahead if you would like, and then I'll share some things that other people have said. So in other words, what do you think this image might show? Okay, so some say it might show brain power. I think absolutely it's a great idea. Seeing things from different perspectives and angles, excellent. Also generating an idea, kind of the evolution and nature of ideas, that they take different forms. So I think that's definitely another one. Creativity and just that kind of creative process and innovation, and specifically it's very much kind of capturing the creativity of Mark and in coming up with the idea to do the hippo tables with the glass that is to essentially mirror water, and this experience of seeing a hippo outside in nature. Also showing the brain as a shapeshifter. So at the learning resource section, this is where you'll find this image. It discusses brain plasticity, the fact that our brains don't stay in the same place. So we're meant to grow, and we do so throughout our lives, especially through meaningful experience. Okay, so left brain in use. All right, great. And see if I can, yeah, and also the celebration of dyslexic thinking, neurodiversity at large. So thank you for sharing those. And yeah, just wanted to share a little bit from the learning resource and show that there's some pretty exciting conceptual art. The book also teaches that we are all unique. So one of the very premises of neurodiversity is the fact that every single brain is different. And so we don't want to any longer think that there's just this one way of thinking, or that anything else is a deviation. We know that's not true. And so the book absolutely messages that very strongly, that we are all unique and we are more than one thing. And there's a couple of ways to interpret that more than one thing. So for one thing, a lot of people with dyslexia have something else. So maybe they have also dysgraphia, difficulties with transcription. They may have also a math learning difference like dyscalculia. In fact, there's a figure I've heard from Dr. Ansari that up to 50% could have of people with dyslexia also have math challenges as well. So we wanted to show that people have a constellation of strengths. They may have more than dyslexia, but also on balance, not just things that might present challenges, but that there's multi-dimensional aspects to them as people, so that they are also maybe fantastic painters and sculptors and dancers, athletes, musicians, and so forth. So that was really important to Mark and I, that to get this idea that people are multi-dimensional. And just as it was said in terms of the last slide, that looking at people in different angles and perspectives is very healthy. So the book absolutely celebrates inclusivity on lots of levels and diversity in general. The back of the book teaches about dyslexia and other common learning differences. And this is where I'd love to just share again that what a wonderful job Brilliant Publications did in creating these little frames and chunking things out so that, and these are, by the way, various pages. So I'm making this one page of a slide, but this is all really nicely dispersed, so it's just not overwhelming for a student. So it also has a wee debrief and discussion questions and reflections, absolutely designed that could be very easily used in a classroom setting. So I have a lot of open-ended questions like, how do mistakes help us learn? As mentioned, this is rooted in research and has its work cited with lots of notes from the research that was conducted. And the book supports and teaches the science of reading. And I think this is one of my favorite parts of the book because I do teach language and literacy skills, that it's really complex to get into how to do speech to print structured literacy methods, right? But what a brilliant job I think the illustrator did in showing this as a comic with sort of the stages and steps, and that's captured. As well as also the perspective that reading is actually not natural. It is something that is acquired that needs explicit instruction. So that's infused in the book as well. The book aligns with Universal Design for Learning, UDL. This is something, a framework that was developed at North Carolina University and Harvard and is being adopted in Ireland. So absolutely great resource to be able to use to support that. Also, it's a book that's more, more than just neurodiversity as its themes. It aligns with SPHE topics, social personal health, also personal social health economic education is what it's called in the UK, and social emotional learning in the United States. So it's also really great for trauma-informed education. You might be thinking, well, I'm not, a therapist, and that's true, but I think I know there's a lot of initiatives in Ireland, as there is in the US and the UK, to be trauma-informed, especially post-pandemic, to be very sensitive and aware of our students and the possible stress and anxiety, depression that they may have felt and still continue to have, since it is something that is on the rise. So learning is emotional, and the book is about kind of bringing to light how we can prime kids for learning in the learning resource section, and through the spirit of the story. So in terms of using the book in the classroom, it's good for kids with neurodiverse profiles. It has this dyslexia ADHD friendly format, includes a variety of common cognitive learning differences, and it's good for all. It really normalizes neurodiversity. Additionally, it encourages reflexive questioning, brain-based information, which everyone's going to benefit from. So it's good for all. And I'd like to say, as a teacher who has a lot to do, and so can really appreciate if teachers are thinking, oh my gosh, just one more thing. I think this is a book that if you read and unpackage would actually fit really well into what you already do. Also using a story that hooks and inspires, using Mark as the example, can also invite the students in for discussion and reflection. So just a few examples here of the book in use. This is Patrick, and he's using this for circle time community building, and just reading little excerpts at a time and focusing on a quote.
Recognize there is a seed of brilliance in everyone. Dr. Peter Gamwell.
So Dr. Peter Gamwell actually does a lot of work in creativity and inclusivity in Canada. Mathematics teacher Jason is using Brita as a springboard to discuss helpful strategies. This is ELA, language arts or English class with 14-year-olds, reading fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. And you might notice there's definitely some challenging multisyllabic words in here that might be difficult for some students with dyslexia. I would say that those who have had structured literacy methods and are a little older will probably be able to read this fluently. That said, again, to be read to is appropriate and absolutely part of the thought process behind designing the book. So it can be read by students, and it can be read too, and then that's it's all good. Also, character studies are a great way to unpackage some of these words. So to look, for example, that oblivious, the word, there's a play, a pun here with Mr. Oblivier, the character. He's oblivious to his students' talents. Thwart, Mrs. Thwart prevents Mark from accomplishing and thriving, for example. Notice and note strategies, signposting also used in the classroom. So there's lots of moments for again and again and memory moments. Exploring themes from the book using mini sculptures. This is something I had my students do. And it was just fun to sort of play off the fact that Mark Stoddart was sculptures. So this student is looking at this part of the book and modeling growth and resilience in the face of adversity. And this one, the role of companionship and friendship in the face of adversity.
A great companion and support system for Mark.
So this is a little sculpture of the dog Callie, which is a character in the book, and he was saying this is a great support system. Also learning more about Mark's art and bronze making and the process of bronze making, and its role in history. Sorry, here we go. Excuse me, comic analysis, learning from the comic artist. Reading expressions, experimenting with exaggeration and humor. Students making their own comics, so thinking about they're thinking through metacognitive processes and creating personal comics. So the prompts here were, what makes me feel positive, strong, and confident? What makes me feel negative, defeated, and frustrated? And these students did a lovely job, and you'll notice that they have a blank here for thinking about what would help them in the classroom and beyond to feel supported so that they are not frustrated. So some great takeaways from the book in terms of process and unpackaging their own learning experiences. Additionally, the tutoring setting here, using a storyboard. These young students here are touching symbols and themes of the story. So it could be used where they have to find a picture that shows the students or that they're trying to find this, or you could read from a page and then they touch this, and also discuss it as well through words. So it doesn't have to just be something that requires them to read. Let's say if they have dysgraphia. Using the storyboard for older students is also a great possibility where they identify and discuss themes here, and using post-it notes for things like emotional trust and thinking about what elicits student participation and support, etc. Brain basics, learning about those neurons and synaptic connections, and using the learning resource to do so, and hands-on projects like this one. Along those lines, also to learn a little bit more about the power of the brain and one's different strengths. So these examples show brain models, and then also learning some facts about the brain. And then the fixed versus growth mindset. So we have here Mr. Oblivier, and we have Mrs. Brill, and Mr. Oblivier here has quite a fixed mindset. You know, he has a very rigid idea of what is a good student and what is right. That said, I wanted to make sure that I showed there was the potential for that to change by saying that, you know, he could have become a kind and understanding educator. So that's really important to realize. Carol Dweck is, and her team at Stanford has done a lot of work with this growth mindset, and has said, you know, the idea that we are just born fixed or growth is really not true, that most of us are actually a blend of fixed and growth, and that we can embrace a growth mindset. And we're quite dynamic with that. So there's always that possibility. And I thought that was really important to share. I didn't want it to just be sort of good and bad, and you're this way and you're that way, because actually with brain plasticity and all the conditions that even teachers, you know, there's growth there too, not just the students. There's some wonderful praise here from experts that really chime into what I've been talking about how this book can be used. different age groups, and the learning resource section, the inspiration of the story itself. So some takeaways are that this is quite an informative book. It's versatile, it invites discussion and creativity. There's a lot in this little book, and our hope is to reframe the conversation, inform, and to also inspire through shared experience. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much for that, Kate. You're an absolute whirlwind tour through the book and your inspiration for it. So I think, yeah, it was really, really great to hear about, I think, the journey you took as well, and all credit. I don't know how you found the time between work and being a busy mom and everything else like that to actually get to a finished published book. I think it's an incredible achievement, and hopefully will be so useful in homes and classrooms, as you say, in so many countries, prompting discussions about this. If anyone has any final questions, like, please feel free to pop that into the chat box or into the Q&A.
And also, if people think of them later, I'm that kind of person. I don't always think of them on the spot. You're welcome to use that email, and I'm happy to further the discussion. So, and also I will share too that I do give workshops here and there, sometimes online. Just me, myself, and I in the summer, for example, when I am not teaching, but I also do them through the Odyssey School. So if there's any ways that people would like to connect further, I'm happy to do that.
Perfect. And obviously we're recording the webinar today as well, so we'll be sending the link out. Oh, there we go. Someone's asked that very question. We're recording it today because we had a few people who had signed up and then weren't able to come, etc. And I know sometimes it's a lot of information, so it's nice to be able to look back over it as well. That's one thing that's always a dyslexia-friendly aspect as well, I think, of doing things, and we're doing that increasingly ourselves now with all of our own training and webinars, is, yeah, to be able to look back over webinars in your own time and maybe stop, pause, look in a bit more detail, etc. So yeah, we'll be sharing that with everyone who's signed up for today, and also on our socials as well.
Okay, now I just had a question about how to buy the book. Well, the book can be bought through Brilliant Publications in the UK. So you can look on their website. You can get it off of Amazon UK and Amazon US if you're my side of the world. And it's also in a number of bookshops, bookstores in the UK and the US as well. And I think it will increasingly be so. So that's really exciting. So yes, thank you.
Excellent, great question, absolutely. And actually, I'm delighted to say we very kindly were given a couple of, whoops, you can't see it here. We were very kindly given a couple of free copies by Mark, as Kate said, whose story and journey with dyslexia and learning inspired the book. So while Kate was busy talking everyone through the book there, we did a little random selection there in the background. So I'm delighted to say that we have 2 copies that we're giving out to people who are attending here live this morning. And they are going to one to Niamh McColgan and one to Edel Clancy. So I'll email you both separately afterwards. So I hope you find that, whether it's at home or school, depending on yourselves. I hope you find that really helpful. As I say, it's a really rich book and lots to talk and explore there.
Excellent. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Kate.
Yeah.
Kate got up very early this morning in the US to join us today, and we're so grateful for that. And wish you continued success with the book. And I've no doubt probably there may be other ones coming down the line at some stage. We'll see.
We'll see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I confess I'm going to have to go because I actually have to go get ready to teach. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Kate. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.